Stabbed in Torrance. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new, thank you for coming to my channel. If you're returning, thank you for coming back to my channel. Now, I don't want to prolong this too much or whatever, but I just got to say this story right here is one of my top tier stories for sure. Like, this is without a doubt in my top five, possibly even in my top three, like for sure closer to my top three. But like, it shook the city. People were talking about it. It probably made the news, and it was like a pretty big deal. And I am going to tell you about that today. And, especially for the time period where it happened, everything, just there's a lot to it. And not only that, but I got an exclusive scoop for you guys because this is too good of a story to mess up on details. I got my boy who was like a straight up eyewitness, not like a police eyewitness. He was just there. Make that very clear. But I got him to send me like a whole, like, all these details of everything that happened. So if you see me, like, at times, like, I might like look over or look down or something, and it's just to keep my place and to make sure that I don't mess up on any details. Okay, so without further ado, I bring you the exclusive Stabbed in Torrance. So this happened in 2012. I graduated high school in 2011, so I was 18, like freshly 18, okay? So, like, at the time, you know, everybody was selling something somewhere, like, in the game, okay? So, my homie Eric was selling Xanax at the time, and this was when Xanax was actually real. I know some people can't picture that, but yeah. So, he gets a call from this girl saying, "Hey, can you serve these three guys, like, blah blah blah," like, and she vouched for him, said they were cool, and he was like, "Yeah, whatever, money's money." So he stayed in this little apartment that was like in between a park and like a main street. So he had a little alley right there, and he was also, at the time, he was waiting for uh, someone was waiting on him around the corner to get some as well, and that was the homie Kyle, and we'll get to him. So these guys pull up on my homie Eric. He's by himself. He's 17 at the time. He was about to turn 18, but he was 17 at the time. Okay, these three like pretty big Asian guys get out, and they all have knives. And the stupidest part, like, is they wanted to get like 5 bars. They were gonna get 5 bars for $20, and they were willing to pull out strong arm robbery somebody for 5 bars. It's like that. That's what all this shit. You're gonna see how much shit happens from that, but that's like the catalyst of it. Okay, so they pull up on him. They pull the knives on him. He, like, luckily he like knows the area well because he lives there. So he runs and he's able to like get away. And when he gets away, the homie Kyle is around the corner who is waiting on him to like serve them first. So he sees Eric run out and sees him running. So he already knows something's going on. So like he's like he's running, and Eric slips on like some gravel, and he slips and like scratches his face. And then Kyle, he would always drove around this Mustang, and like this fool was just like a buck wild crazy ass dude, like not crazy in the sense of losing his mind, but he was just like down. He was one of the first purple one of the first people I knew that was like doing time, like at a time when I was maybe like a freshman in high school or something, like maybe in eighth grade. Like, it was very young. I was like, damn, dude. Like, it was the first time I probably heard of Wayside. Not the last time, but the first time. Okay. So, anyways, Kyle pulls up, fucking blocks 2 lanes of traffic. Like, this street is like Anza. It's like a very busy street. And he just like doesn't care. He pulls and he just stops traffic on the other side of the street. Everybody's honking at him and stuff, and he's telling Eric like, "Yo, get in, get in." So Eric gets in, and the first thing Kyle says is, "Yo, are you good to drive?" Which I thought was kind of like a funny thing to ask someone when you're the one. It's like, motherfucker, you picked me up. Like, you should be good to drive. But what it was Kyle he wanted Eric to drive so that they could drive back to the where that just went down, because Kyle was pissed off that they did that to Eric, because Kyle, he's older than me, so everybody looks at Eric like the little homie. Like, he's not like, he's only a year younger than me, but just everybody, he's kind of everybody's like little bro type shit. So Eric and him switch spots, and they're only around the block anyways. Like, they're not far. You can probably throw a rock to where they from between both spots. So they pull back to the alley. The guys are still there. Kyle gets out of the car, walks up to the dude, or walks up to one of the dudes, and he just fucking cracks him. Guy drops to the floor, and the other two guys start like advancing on him. Okay, so like as they start coming closer to him, he's walking backwards. He gets into the car, back into the Mustang, and they take off. So they're taking off, and they're going to go pick up the other homie, who's somebody that I went to middle school with, and Kyle wanted to go get the strap. He was wild like that, man, back then. Like, he was the type of dude who would wake up and he would be like, "Yo, I woke up and I have like 5 MacBook laptops and like all these iPhones and like whatever, like, probably going through cars all night or something." Like, there's a lot of people that did shit like that, but I can remember him specifically being like, "Yo, I have this computer, I don't even know where it came from." Like, that was like regular. So Eric was like, "No, no, 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 like, no, none of us rocked like that. Like, Torrance is not a place where you should feel like you need a weapon. I've only met like a handful of people that like actually like carry a gun around like in Torrance, and that's very rare, and that's a very specific type of person. So Eric's like, "Nah, nah, nah." He's like, "Just drop me off at my dad's house," which is a different apartment complex that's like 2 or 3 blocks east, away from the beach. Okay, so he drops him off. He goes home, and let me make sure I'm not missing anything. He drops him off and goes home, and he goes inside his house, and he has like a plethora of brothers that are older. Like, there's one, I know all of them. They're all like older brothers to me, but one of them's a year older than me, another one's like 4 years older than me, and another one's like 10 years older than me. I have different relationships with all of them, and they're all family. So his brother, who's like 4 years older than me, so 5 years older than him, he was there. So they, like, the Asian guys, who, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we found out later that they were in a gang called KTK, which is Koreatown Killers, I think, or something. I don't know. I'm not a gang guy. So like, they're texting and calling Eric, and they're saying like, "Yo, we want to apologize. We're over here at Chill Church," which is ironic for like the way that this story is about to go. But it was just a church that was across the street from the apartments, and it was like a preschool and like a church kind of, but like more a preschool. And it was just a big empty parking lot. Like, you could cut through the parking lot to go from one block to another. Everybody in those apartments would park in that parking lot, but at night it would just be empty, and there would just be like lights like hitting the asphalt. So they're telling him like, "Yo, just come to the church, like, we want to apologize," and I think they were trying to entice, saying like, "We'll buy more, we have money, this, that, whatever." And finally Eric's like, he's like, "Fuck it," and he decides to go, but he's not gonna go fucking by himself, and he's not gonna go empty handed. So he gets his brother, and his neighbor Ruben, who was like a down ass fool that, like, he's in other stories I have that'll be later on. But so it's his brother, him, Ruben, his neighbor, and then two of Ruben's relatives that at the time, like, we got cool with them later on, but at the time they didn't even know Eric or anybody at all. Like, they didn't know Eric or his family or anything like that. They just were there, heard about the situation, and they were down to ride. So with that, Ruben takes a mini bat, a Dodgers mini bat, which, if you've ever been to a baseball game, you know what I'm talking about. The mini baseball bats that are pretty, like, kind of heavy for how small they are. He gives Eric a knife, which was probably like this big. The blade was like the size of like your palm. It wasn't nothing crazy. And I don't think anybody else had any other like type of like a weapon or anything like that. It was really just them. And so with that, they went outside. And before that, like I said, Eric was selling bars, so he like rallied everybody up and probably gave them. I know, actually, not probably. I know he gave everybody some, and that's just gonna intensify the situation of people being violent and angry and aggressive and not giving a fuck about the consequences at the same time. So that definitely amped things up in the wrong way. I would say, from my opinion. I don't know. So they go out, and like when they go out there, there's five of them, so it's literally a 5-on-5. And when they get like within, I don't know, 10 feet or 15 feet or whatever, Eric goes, "That's the guy that pulled a knife on me." And Eric's brother goes, "Nobody pulls a knife on my little brother." And then he like gets up in this guy's face and squares up and just punches him before he can do anything about it, and just not, these guys just fell to the floor like putty. like on some shit where in a movie someone gets shot one time and they're like, "Ugh," and they're dead. So these guys, one of them had a broken sake bottle. One of them had a screwdriver. One of them had a knife. Like, they had way more. Like, each one of them had a weapon. And for like my squad of people, it wasn't like that. So this is the part that I need to read so I don't like get anything wrong. Okay, so Eric's brother cracks the one guy. As he was falling, Ruben has his mini bat and he cracks that guy hard as fuck. Then he just started going off on everybody. I could imagine him just trying to hit as many people as possible. Eric moved into the street because the street is like very close to where this parking lot, like the little place where a car would pull in. So he's on the street and Eric's getting down with some guy. The guy pulls out a glass 40 bottle, which for you youngins out there, 40s used to be made out of glass, not plastic. Another video for another day or some shit, whatever, I can't. So he pulls out the glass 40 bottle and he's running up on Ruben. So he's running up on him, and Eric sees that, and he hits him in the head with the 40-ounce bottle, and it goes bink. And then he hits him again, and it goes bink. And then the very third time, he hits him with the 40-ounce bottle, and it explodes on his head. His head gets cut, and he just starts bleeding everywhere. And remember, this is all happening at Chill Church, okay? So his head starts bleeding everywhere. So Eric was like on his way to him when that was happening, so he saw it happen. So by the time the bottle breaks on Ruben's head, Eric takes out the knife and he just fucking and just sticks the guy, okay? So after that, that gave Ruben some time to get up and get his bearings. And then in that, Ruben was able to crack that guy a couple more times with the mini bat. And then after that, Eric yelled knife, and they all started running. So they ran back to his house, and they go back to his house, and for some reason, I give Eric credit to this day. I don't know how he thought of this, but I guess he knew like that the cops were going to be coming, and they were very familiar with his family and stuff. So, but what he did was he actually moved his stash of like pills and everything into the hallway closet. And sure enough, they got like a warrant or whatever. They fucking raided his house, but the warrant was only for his room, so they couldn't search any of the other rooms. So maybe jot that down. Maybe that it has to be the warrant has to be specific. So he moved those. Like if it wasn't for that, this would have went a lot of different. It could have went a lot of different ways, but he somehow had that idea to move that, and no sooner did he do that did they fucking come kicking in the door, and they arrest all of them, take them all to the Torrance Police Department. So here's where I come in just briefly. Is I'm doing my own thing that night. I don't remember what, but I get a phone call and it says Torrance Police Department, and I'm like, oh great. And I had gotten plenty of calls like that, so in my mind I'm like, who is it now, And I pick up the phone and then it says you have a call from Eric at the Torrance Police whatever, and it says you need $2.50 or at least $2 to accept the call. Can you accept the call? And I looked at my thing. I had like $0 and like 25 cents, and I was like, damn. And I couldn't answer it, and I still feel bad that I couldn't, even though there wasn't much I could really do. But I just like I knew who was where, but I didn't know why. And it's not a good place for somebody to be. And I have anxiety, so I think of a million different things that probably didn't happen. So they're all in the Torrance police station, and like they're in there. Eric wakes up after that night because they're all messed up, and he wakes up in his cell, and he wakes up to a piece of paper that's next to his face, and it says that his bail is $1 million and he's getting charged with first-degree murder. Yeah, that's quite a way to wake up. I've had my share of wake ups, but never anything like that. You know what I mean? Like even a jail wake up, but that wasn't as aggressive as that. So, like, he's like tripping out, obviously, and like they're constantly like calling him to the interrogation room and whatever, and sending him back, and like nobody's talking. Nobody's talking. Like the guys that he enlisted with help, like they're not talking for nothing. Like that's just the way it was. Like it was gonna be regardless. And there's an old saying: nobody talks, everybody walks. And it's not true all the time, but in certain scenarios it is. So after 3 days, Ruben and his two relatives get released. Eric sees them leave. So now it's just Eric and his older brother. So they're in cells right next to each other, and they figure out this thing where they tap on the wall, like they kind of figure out a code thing just to like talk kind of and make sure that they're there and they're okay and stuff. So after 5 days, they kick his brother out. And at that time, they get Eric and they bring him in the interrogation room, and they show him pictures of the guy that he stabbed. And this dude has like the air thing, and like he's not breathing on his own and stuff. He's like laying in a hospital bed, and they're trying to explain, they're trying to scare him, like that's like what they do there. But he stood tall, didn't say anything, and then those guys didn't say anything. So at the like when his brother leaves, then after 2 more days, they kick Eric. Like they tell him that he's going to court to see the judge, whatever. So the whole time Eric's asking like, did anyone see my brother? They have the same last name. He's very easy to like point out. Has anyone seen him? Anyone seen him? And everyone's saying no. So he like literally doesn't know what's going to happen. So he ends up going to court, and the judge says, or the judge says to uncuff him and that he's free to go because the case was a DA reject, which means that they didn't have enough evidence, or they didn't think that they could bring it to like a place where they could get a conviction. So they kicked him loose, but they kept his cell phone for a year for investigation. That was like the only thing that came of it. And they kicked him loose. So it was like, that was just like some wild shit that happened on just like a random night. That wasn't a weekend or anything. So after that, it was funny, because kind of funny, because everyone was kind of paranoid. Not me, but the people involved were kind of paranoid. And like Eric's brother, not Eric, but Eric's brother, he would have like a little can of like mace, and like he would just be very suspicious of if we were outside smoking a cigarette or like whatever. He would be very suspicious of anybody walking by, or he would like reach his hand in his pocket and have it like ready to go so he could just go shh, like that. And the kicker to all of this is, like, a couple weeks or like months later, they ended up like running into these guys at McDonald's at like 2 in the morning, and they ended up squashing the beef right there. And they like smoked a blunt together and like whatever, like I don't know what else they did, but like it ended up getting squashed. So all of that was over 5 bars, that like really, like the value of that's like 20-30 bucks max, or whatever the fuck. Like even if you, like, it's just not worth all the shit that came from that. So anyways, that's the stabbed in Torrance story, man. Like, I hope that it was entertaining. Um, it's 100% factual, man. Like, so I got plenty more where this came from, but especially celebrating the 100 subscribers, I wanted to give you guys a good story, and I want to cut this before my storage fucks me over. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to my channel. Strictly Business. Peace out.